Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 24th of November. I hope that you have been having a good week, and I hope that today will be a blessing to you. Yesterday I talked a bit about suicide and the impact that has both on obviously the person who is contemplating suicide or who takes their life by suicide, but also the impact they have on their family. And yesterday a young lady named Nancy, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, but I'm going to just pronounce it Ja. It's spelled Xia. She watched the video and she commented, and she in turn had a link to her own video about her life and her struggles in life with mental health issues and her own attempt at taking her life, which left her paralyzed and in a wheelchair, and her journey to Christianity and her journey into her mental health and discovering she had bipolar disease and what happened when they found the right medication for her and the opening up of her life. Her video is really well put together and I highly recommend it to you. Her name is Nancy Ja, Nancy, and her last name is Xia. And she has a website with her name, nancyja.com. And I really do recommend you watch her YouTube video because it's well put together and it talks beautifully about her own journey and where she is now and how she got there. And there's an image of a rose unfolding as she talks about what happened to her when she got to be on the right medication. And one day she felt alive and happy, and she'd never experienced that before. And I just want to shout out to her, to Nancy, for sharing that with us and sharing that with me after I'd had my first day of my assist training. I'm heading back in a little while for the second day of assist training, and I anticipate that today is going to be a bit harder than yesterday. It was very introductory yesterday, and I imagine today will be more difficult, although life-giving in that I will feel more comfortable that I have some skills and some abilities and some language to help other people. But today I would like to just talk really briefly about the role of mental health when it comes to things like suicide. As I've said before a couple of times, mental health is something that for so many years was something that we didn't talk about. It was taboo. We would lock people away or pretend that they didn't exist. We would talk about women's hysteria, or we would talk about that crazy aunt we had, ha ha ha, wink wink, who never came out. There's books written like Jane Eyre, and they have the crazy woman in the attic and things like that. And we, for so long, for many generation after generation, we talked about mental health, or rather we didn't talk about mental health and the struggles that people have with that, as if there was something wrong with them, as if mental health was something to be embarrassed by. And I think that is such a shame. I look back in my own family and I think two of my grandparents. My dad's mother, Lena Schaefer Walker, who had multiple sclerosis, MS, and she almost wore her MS like a badge of courage. She had it for a great bulk of her life. I think if I'm not mistaken, she was diagnosed at around the same time as my father was born, her third child. And then throughout her life, till the end of her life in her 70s, she dealt with it, and she had canes, and she would defy the doctors, and they'd say, you shouldn't go traveling, and she'd take a bus trip someplace. And she had spunk, and she didn't appear to let her diagnosis of a debilitating physical disease that should have slowed her down. She didn't let it slow her down. Right until the day she died, she was roaring to go, and she was an inspiration to me anyway. I imagine to other people who knew her, as an idea of, this is when life gives you lemon you make lemons, you make lemonade, and that's what my grandma Walker did. On the other hand, I experienced, and I don't know for sure, but I think on the other side of my family, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, I believe that he suffered from depression. Now, I don't know that he was ever diagnosed or if he had any, accredited mental health disorders or anything. But I remember him struggling with depression, and I remember him talking about how his head felt so sore and he just wanted to make the pain go away. And he really struggled with being a whole person, a happy person. My memories of my grandpa, because I adored him, were memories of great kindness and compassion and gentleness. And I know those aren't the same memories that other, grandchildren of his had or his children. But for me, those are the memories that live on. But I also have some tough memories of him dealing with moments when he thought he was by himself. When I come around the corner to see him struggling, or things that he would say that in retrospect I realize now, in my old age, I recognize this was a man who had heart pain, that he was struggling with some mental health issues that went probably undiagnosed, or at least not really talked about. And probably simply because in that generation you did not talk about that, because that showed weakness. First of all, there's nothing wrong with being weak. Everyone has their weaknesses, and we need to acknowledge that, because we cannot expect everyone to be strong all the time, because if we do, we are not allowing them to be human. When we acknowledge that people have weaknesses, then we can also acknowledge that we do. And when we acknowledge that we have weaknesses, then we acknowledge that we need to ask for help, which also then allows us to offer help to others when they are experiencing weakness in their own lives. So let's just throw out all this crap about, you have to be strong 100% of the time and it is wrong to show weakness. That's ridiculous. It's actually strong to admit that you need help. And that's a good thing. And being weak shouldn't be something we look down on. Being weak should be acknowledging that we are human beings and that we have a need that can be met by God, a need that can be met in Christ by the Holy Spirit, a need that can be met by our siblings, our parents, our children, our neighbors, the people we work with. And also then that means we have opportunity to help others in their needs. But when we talk about needs and we talk about weaknesses, we have to recognize mental health and the fact that not all mental health is healthy. There are lots of people who lots of time are happy and able to hold their own and do their thing, and they're able to do all of the best things in life. But I would bet that every single one of us has our moments. Some people may even have seasons, and I think probably I've had a few of those myself, when you feel kind of fuzzy, or you feel down or depressed, and it's difficult to smile. It's difficult to be happy for someone else in their happiness, because we're just feeling like blah, or we're feeling frustrated or angry or displaced or despairing. And we need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that there are times in our lives when our mental health isn't all that healthy, isn't in such great shape. And when we get to the point when we can acknowledge that, we might be in a better position when we can then reach out and ask for help. And we might be in a better position to recognize when other people need our help. And you know what? That might also lead us to a point where we begin to recognize that if we are becoming so despairing and so hopeless in our lives, that we are thinking that maybe the best thing for me or the best thing for my family would be if they didn't have to deal with it anymore. If we would be able to let go of that and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe this life has become too difficult. We might be able then to reach out to others and say, help me to find meaning in my life. And hence we could do the same for others. There really is no reason why anyone needs to suffer alone. We need to become a society that acknowledges mental health as important as any kind of physical health. There is no reason why my grandfather should have had to live his life in the stigma of believing that he had to carry his mental health issues alone. Well, just down the concession in the next town, my grandmother was acknowledging her physical illness and saying, "Come at me. I can handle it. I can handle anything." They both should have had opportunity to handle it that way, just as all of us should have opportunity to handle it that way. We need to end the stigma that is associated with mental health and suicide. We just do. We need to stop talking about them as if they are something that we shouldn't be talking about, as something to be ashamed of, and recognize that every single person has moments of grace and joy and hope, and every single person has moments of despair and helplessness and the need for someone to reach out and say, "Let me help you." So today I ask that you pray for those people around you and open your eyes that you might see the people who need you, who are reaching out to you and asking for help. And if you are one of the people who needs to ask for help, please do. Reach out to me, reach out to a neighbor, a friend, a loved one, a colleague, a priest, a teacher, a doctor, someone. Don't allow yourself to believe that you are in this alone, because together we can help one another. God bless you on your journey and as you walk beside others on theirs. Together, we can end the stigma that is attached to mental health and suicide. Together, we can make this life better. And I do encourage you to check out Nancy's website and her video and her book, Leap Dash into the Mind of Suicide. I've ordered it, so once I've read it, if you want to borrow it from me, just let me know and I'll send it on to you and you can have a read at it too. Have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.